Getting ahead of 99% of closers in the high-ticket sales game really is not that difficult. If you think the opposite to be true, you might just have some sort of limiting belief, but the truth is most salespeople don't even cover their basics. So in this video, I'm going to give you the 10 sacred laws of sales so that you can stop being an average sales rep and make the actual commissions that you want. If you don't know who I am, my name is Christian Jack, and I went from earning $1,200 a month as a teacher's aide to generating over $100 million in high-ticket sales. I have personally collected multiple millions in a single month. I've closed multiple million-dollar deals and consistently led teams that do millions a month with management and training, but you probably don't care about that. So let's get into the 10 sacred laws of sales. So principle number 1 is embody the ideal. Now, what I mean by this is really to succeed in sales, you have to become the person that your prospects aspire to be, as in your personal qualities directly shape the reality that you experience and project. Now, this doesn't mean becoming the person that the other person wants to be. Like if they want to have a Ferrari, you don't have to go out and buy a Ferrari. What this means is living a life that reflects the traits, the decisiveness, leadership, resilience that your prospects value and seek to emulate for themselves. If you exhibit these characteristics authentically, then you'll end up creating this unspoken resonance that just naturally draws people towards you. And that will naturally, of course, make them more receptive to your offer and who you are and what you're saying, because it represents a step closer to their own aspirations. So this principle operates on a couple of levels, right? Number 1 is your internal alignment influences the types of opportunities and prospects you attract. Your internal alignment. Okay. Very, very simply, if you are hesitant or inconsistent in your own decisions, you are more likely then to encounter prospects who mirror that uncertainty back to you. Obviously, that complicates the sales process. And conversely, embodying confidence and purpose aligns you with individuals who will respect and respond to those qualities, therefore setting the stage for smoother, more successful conversations, right? And people who just generally hesitate less. Now, the second layer of this is perception, all right? Perception. Prospects can sense who you are, often unconsciously, from the moment that you engage. They may not necessarily articulate it into words, but they can feel whether you are a credible guide or someone that they'd rather avoid, right? A salesperson who turns up frazzled or uninspired or low energy risks signaling that they don't care. They signal weakness. They signal that they're uninspired. And you will literally push prospects away if you do that. So by consistently acting as a role model, even if you don't necessarily believe yourself to be one in the moment, you will start to build trust and inspire action, not only in prospects, but in yourself. And that will lead to it happening in prospects. And therefore, you will start to turn sales calls into a bridge between people's current state and the ideal that they envision, right? So that is step number 1, embody the ideal. Step number 2, the second sacred law here, is enjoy the process. All right? Very simply, sales, closing, setting, whatever it is that you're doing, really anything in life, becomes more effective and more sustainable when you genuinely enjoy it. So instead of treating it like a job or a chore or a means to an end, potentially even viewing it negatively, inauthentic, burdensome, all those sorts of things. If you're viewing it negatively, you're essentially just projecting reluctance that prospects can detect, whether you like it or not, whether you mean to or not. And obviously that will undermine your ability to connect with a person and be able to help them ultimately, and potentially even close. Now, embracing selling as a fulfilling endeavor starts to shift your energy. You'll make every call an opportunity rather than an obligation. And naturally that is going to enhance your performance. The enjoyment can stem from recognizing sales' deeper potential. It's a vehicle for impact and self-improvement. Beyond, obviously, the money, the material rewards, sales offers a chance to influence people's lives positively, much like any other profession that leaves a lasting mark. You can probably think of a few in your head now. And when you reframe it as a craft to master, like an athlete hones their sport, or like a doctor hones their skills, even setbacks become engaging challenges that fuel your growth and keep you motivated through the ups and through the downs. Right? The practical payoff of this is massive. It cannot be overstated. Prospects respond to this energy shift. If you dread the process, your prospects will too. They will feel your disengagement. Their trust will be massively reduced. Their willingness to buy will go straight out the window. But if you are able to approach your interaction with passion, seeing it as a way to serve prospects and evolve, you end up creating this infectious positivity that not only makes selling more enjoyable for you, but also elevates the experience for the buyer and therefore increasing the likelihood of successful outcomes for everybody. Now, let's move on to sacred law. Number 3 is maintain professionalism. All right, maintain professionalism. There we go. All right. Professionalism in sales can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. To me, it means staying composed and impartial. I am avoiding emotional outbursts, any sort of judgment or bias, no matter the prospect's behavior. Kind of like a doctor diagnosing a patient, you have to focus on what's right for them without letting personal feelings cloud your approach. So this steadiness, if you will, ultimately will build credibility and authority and ensure that prospects see you as a reliable guide rather than this, salesperson, maybe even an erratic one, right? Lapses in professionalism could mean reacting angrily to objections or subtly judging a prospect's choices. Those things will erode your trust and completely derail your deals, right? These behaviors will typically signal that your agenda actually outweighs their needs, right? And that will make them defensive, make them disengaged. As opposed to if you are calm, level-headed, if you have that sort of demeanor, that will keep the conversation productive and allow you to address your concerns and prospects' concerns objectively, maintain control of the interaction without seeming overbearing. And ultimately, this rule is about consistency, all right? Consistency. Even when prospects are maybe more difficult, maybe they're dismissive, maybe they rant, they go off on long tangents, acting like a child or a dictator risks alienating them on either side. Whereas if you're professional and you are consistent and you are composed, is the other way that I would describe this. If you are composed, you will ultimately invite their respect and their cooperation. Now, over time, this habit not only serves you in sales, but also your reputation just in life in general, and it sharpens your ability to navigate difficult calls, because it doesn't matter how the prospect shows up, you are composed and you are consistent, and you will operate the same way regardless, turning those potential losses into wins through this disciplined execution, right? Sacred law number 4 is eliminating distractions, right? Eliminate distractions. Being indestructible in sales means removing both external and internal distractions, both in yourself and in the prospect, to stay fully present during calls. Now, physically, this means keeping your devices, like your phones, out of reach, silent, ideally even in another room, to break the cycle of compulsive checking keeping Slack closed, anything that fragments your focus, right? A distraction-free environment obviously is going to prime you to engage fully with your prospects and increase the level of effectiveness that you have. Now, internally, the mental clutter that you have, unresolved tasks, worries, wandering thoughts can be just as disruptive, right? A simple solution is keeping a notepad nearby, jot down anything that pops into your mind, offloading it without losing it. Now, this will keep your attention anchored in the moment, being completely present and preventing any sort of mental drift that dulls your ability to listen, question, or respond properly, all right? The stakes in sales are high. The moment you get distracted as a salesperson, you miss cues, you fumble the bag, right? You respond improperly, and you signal disinterest to the prospect. And prospects are able to pick up on that consciously or unconsciously. When your mind is elsewhere, you're less resourceful, and the call suffers and the prospect suffers, potentially costing you the deal and potentially costing the prospect a problem solved or a goal achieved, a dream achieved, potentially even. So by mastering your own personal discipline, you ensure that every interaction reflects your full capability, fostering trust, fostering clarity, and ultimately driving sales and revenue. All right, number 5 is order your life. All right, order your life. Very, very simply put, your personal life directly impacts your sales performance. Unresolved chaos in your relationships, your health, finances seeps into your own personal energy and your professional energy, therefore, as well, because you are the same person at home as you are on the call. So if your office or your room is cluttered, if you are in a relationship and there's some sort of strain in the relationship, or maybe you are neglecting your own personal health or well-being, these things aren't separate from your work. They're extensions of you that shape how you show up. Putting your life in order creates this stable foundation, if you will, and frees mental bandwidth for selling, right? There is this term called nonverbal leakage that we study inside of the dojo that plays directly into this and the levels of authority that you have. So the unconscious mind is very, very powerful at picking up on social cues, nonverbal communication, behaviors that you exhibit, all sorts of stuff, body language, etc. So if you want to learn about all of that, hit the link down in the description to join the Sales Dojo. You can join for 7 days for free, ask all your questions, and who knows, it might just be the last sales training that you'll ever need. Now, this is a bit more of a holistic approach. I understand that. And we're trying to recognize that sales isn't just an isolated skill. It's actually intertwined with your own personal overall state, right? If you have this ongoing family dispute or even just poor physical fitness, that can sap your confidence and your focus and subtly undermine your presence on your calls. So addressing these areas, whether it be by reconciling with your loved ones or establishing a routine, will ultimately enhance the level of resilience and clarity that you have, making you a more effective salesperson. Meanwhile, the opposite side of things, if you delay these sorts of things, the cost will be compounded. Every day that you tolerate disorder, you lose potential deals because your performance goes down, your confidence goes down. Prospects can sense when you're off balance. Even if they can't pinpoint why, they will just have this natural gut feeling and their trust will disappear. So by proactively aligning your life, you actually project this new strength and confidence and amplify your ability to close deals and sustain success long-term in any endeavor. All right, let's move on to number 6 now. We're halfway there. Number 6 is to believe in your leads. This is a very important one. Very, very important. If you do not believe in your prospect, you're missing out on so much. Because assuming that every prospect who engages with you has a problem they want to solve and wants to solve it, and they have the ability to solve it, will transform your approach to sales. Now, I'm not necessarily saying to assume that the person who comes on the call has a problem or that they're looking for a solution or anything like that. Like you kind of can, but at the higher levels, we're probably going to rewire that. It's just assuming that the person on the other end of the call has the ability, all right? Has the ability, not even misspelling ability and or the potential, all right? Specifically, you want to believe in the potential that your prospects have. Now, this mindset or this mental frame counters the temptation to prejudge or blame leads as bad and helps you to establish this service-oriented attitude instead. And it shifts the frustration mentality to now curiosity, and you'll notice that you are naturally encouraged to uncover their needs and their wants and their desires rather than dismissing them just outright, right? Now, if you think about the prospect on the other end, if they give you a spouse objection, it means that they don't believe that their spouse believes in them enough to make this work. Oftentimes, right? If they're running it by their spouse out of permission or anything else, most people don't have someone in their lives who truly believes in them. And you as a salesperson might just be the person, the one person that believes in them. Imagine the power of that, the power that has on the conversation and the power that has on their future. By having this belief in your prospect, it not just influences your behavior, right? But also the dynamics of your interaction. So if you enter a call expecting resistance or irrelevance, you'll project this skepticism and make the conversation stilted and or combative. Whereas if you start with the conviction, write that down here. If you start with the conviction that they're there for a reason, and that they have the ability to achieve so much more in their life, then this will naturally draw out somebody's latent desire to act and improve your perception of lead quality, right? Now, the practical benefit of this is obviously a couple of things. Number one, it will prevent you from writing off viable prospects prematurely. And even if they're broke, cutting off the ability for them to potentially close at some point in the future, or even getting resourceful today. And it also aligns with the idea that your reality mirrors your expectations, right? By treating each call as an opportunity to help, you're more likely to connect meaningfully and turn marginal leads into wins and convert way more than anybody else on your team, right? Obviously, this will keep you engaged as a salesperson. It will keep you solution focused, and you being those ways we've already established what the benefits of that is, right? Or what the benefits of those things are. So now let's move on to number 7 here, adopting the right frame. Your frame is the lens through which you view things in the world, right? Specifically in a sales call, this will dictate your actions and their effectiveness with a prospect. A flawed frame like forcing a sale for ego or for money will lead to aggressive or manipulative even tactics that will repel your prospects. So on the other side, conversely, just being too soft, avoiding pushback out of detachment, or even just avoiding necessary conversations that you need to have with prospects about limiting beliefs or about fears will let opportunities slip, right? And ultimately, you adopting the right frame, adopt the right frame, and you adopting the right frame is about balancing both strength and neutrality, right? Being fiercely attached to what's right for the prospect and being fiercely attached to the things that they say are true, as well as your own personal values and beliefs about what are true, but then being unattached to whether they buy or not. This is kind of like, it's a very overused frame, I think, but it does work to a certain extent. The frame of a doctor, right? Pushing hard when somebody's inaction or even actions are harming them, like missing out on some sort of limiting belief, but doing so from a place of service rather than self-interest, right? That will make sure that your conviction is actually genuine and it comes across as genuine instead of salesy. And that leads to more trust and more respect from the prospect, right? So doctor frame, and of course, pushback when harmful. I'm going to say on harmful. All right. If something is harmful to the prospect, we need to be pushing back on it. So these things are going to ultimately attach you to the right outcome. You're going to challenge their hesitation. You're going to challenge their limiting beliefs. You're going to help them through it while simultaneously being unattached to the result, which means that you avoid coming across as this desperate salesperson, right? Prospects will sense this sort of integrity. They'll feel more supported rather than pressured. And ultimately mastering this sort of frame is going to turn your resistant prospects into collaborative ones and make your closes even more smooth and even more ethical. All right. Number 8 here is very, very important. Don't fall off. Don't think that these last ones are less important than the others. Master the basics. All right. Master the basics is about consistently executing on the simple things, identifying problems, probing, clarifying, finding the impact, understanding beliefs, rather than just chasing all of these advanced tactics. There are some very, very advanced things that I teach inside of the Sales Dojo at the upper levels. Once you get to like purple belt and beyond, we're going into some very deep stuff. However, I was able to make $100,000 a month in sales before I learned those things. You don't need them in order to have success in sales. So your fundamentals form the bedrock for every single call. Skipping them for flashy, fancy techniques leaves gaps that will ultimately derail deals more than you end up making extra deals on the fancy things, which you probably won't even implement properly without coaching from somebody like me. Now, mastery on the basics is going to ensure that you're always building on this solid ground and not on, this proverbial sandy, shaky shortcuts. I see all too often, it's exciting, and I get that doing something exciting can be a good thing. But I see all too often salespeople will overestimate their grasp of these essentials, assuming that they're covered while missing massive details, like failing to clarify a vague complaint or failing to clarify when somebody gives an objection. And this failure to see things, this oversight, if you will, completely dilutes the impact that you can have, and the advanced moves will ultimately lack power without that clear foundation, right? Sticking to the basics, applying them with precision every time, consistently. Now, the payoff for all of this is ultimately reliability and consistency, which Lord knows sales is inconsistent enough as a role per se. Until you become consistent, then it's the most consistent job in the world. It doesn't even matter if there's, a recession going on. If nobody else is making money, you know that you're still able to make money. And ultimately, because you are now more reliable with yourself, this brings more clarity and more presence to the process with prospects. If you've never been rigorously trained, or if you never rigorously train in the fundamentals and you let them slip, your closing rate will immediately suffer needlessly. So just reinforce the discipline. Write that down here as well. Reinforce this discipline so that you can transform your inconsistent results into consistent wins and prove to yourself more than anyone that simplicity done well will outperform complexity every single time. All right. Now, number 9, we got 2 more here. Stay engaged here. Keep taking notes. Hopefully we're doing well. Number 9 is gather tangible insights. All right. Gather tangible insights. So I know this might sound kind of like a weird way to say it, but it's worded this way very much so on purpose. So discovery. In discovery, whether you're a setter, whether you're a closer, you are collecting specific, tangible information, not vague, transparent responses. Think about it like you're going for bricks, not sheets of glass, right? You can see straight through sheets of glass. They don't really provide any structural integrity, whereas bricks do. Asking, what don't you like about your situation? What's the significance of that, right? If somebody says it's boring, right? They don't like their job because it's boring. I don't know what they mean by that. That is a total glass sheet. I need details. Like, I spend 4 hours a day, Christian, on daily repetitive tasks that drain the hell out of me. This paints a much more vivid picture and grounds the conversation in reality, right? Vague answers ultimately detach prospects from their emotions. They reduce the urgency to act, whether it's escaping a pain or chasing a goal or bridging a gap, whereas specifics force people to relive their struggle and envision their aspiration in full color, right? Not black and white. It's triggering the feelings that drive decisions. The way that the brain works, it can't actually imagine future things. Your brain will go into the past on things that have been similar before and the emotions that come up from that, and it brings them into the present, and your brain will literally start to produce those same chemicals in the present moment. So if somebody is saying it's boring, their brain isn't actually producing the chemicals. You have to get to the specifics. Now, what's even more important with this, debatably, point number 1 is specifics, right? Specifics, not vague. It has to be tangible. But then point number 2 is insights, all right? If somebody gives you a detail, like they are spending 4 hours a day, let's just use the same example. They're spending 4 hours a day on repetitive tasks that drain them. What's the significance of that? What do you mean by drain you? Where is that causing you the most grief at the moment? I need to understand the insight from the fact. That is a fact. I spend 4 hours on repetitive tasks that drain me. Great. We need facts. We need to find facts in a sales conversation. However, the insights from that fact, what people are taking away from that fact, what people are pulling out of their situations and what they believe it means in their life, and how it's affecting them personally in their emotions, in their decisions, in their relationships, in their health. All these things, these are insights. And that's what I want. So when you are reviewing your own calls, you will start to see this more and more. You will need to take a look at these fuzzy responses, these glass sheet responses, and you'll notice all of these missed opportunities in order to dig deeper, right? Tangible insights, numbers, examples, concrete situations and scenarios. These things will equip you to actually address their true motivations and not just talking, but you're now connecting and turning this concrete data and these emotions that come off the back of it into a very compelling case for them to take action, right? Now, what is very important here is that we don't miss number 10. Number 10 is to close with integrity. There's a lot of different meanings that people give to the word integrity. What I'm talking about here is only sell to prospects who have a high likelihood of success in your offer based on their level of clarity, their level of commitment, and their alignment. All right? I'm writing those down. This is very important. Clarity, commitment, and alignment. All right? Clarity, commitment, and alignment. Pushing someone into a program that they're not ready to commit to, or pushing somebody into a program that they're not clear on how it's going to work, or pushing somebody into a program that they're not actually aligned with in terms of their problems, their goals, how they want to go about solving those problems or achieving those goals, etc., etc. It harms everybody. They fail, you lose credibility, and the business suffers. Has a refund, has a chargeback, reputation suffers, a get bad review, and then maybe somebody else who would have succeeded in the program changed their life. They saw that review and now they're never going to do it. Imagine how many times that might happen. Integrity is both ethical and strategic. All right. Now, what this does require is assessing their actual readiness during discovery, not just their problem or their desire, but if there are red flags in terms of their reluctance to adopt changes in their life. You have to confront that head on and offer the person a chance to realign or respectfully decline to proceed, right? Respectfully decline to move forward. As an example, someone unwilling to maybe adjust their habits that are critical to getting the outcome should not be enrolled, no matter their amount of enthusiasm. The result of closing with integrity is a win-win. Aligned prospects crush it in the program. They boost your reputation and your customer retention as a business, while the misaligned ones avoid doing the work and they poison the other customers that you have in your business that are doing the work, that could be winning, but they're not because of this person. Your prospects will feel your commitment to their success, not just your commission, and ultimately this will increase the level of trust with them. This 10th sacred law will filter out so much more trouble than you even realize and ensure that every close builds a solid foundation for the next one and for lasting impact in this person's life and others. Thanks for tuning in today. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and if you want to get more training like this, the first link down in the description is a no downside, free for the first 7 days, only upside trial to join the Sales Dojo, where you can learn all about all of this, as well as tons of tactical steps that you can take to implement each and every one of these laws on every call and ultimately live better, impact more people, and achieve anything that it is that you want in your own life. So if you'd like to join, hit the link down in the description. Again, it's 7 days for free. And my goal with the Sales Dojo, as always, is to make this the last sales training that you will ever need. I'll see you inside.